everybody. Welcome to another installment of Manna Moments. As you can tell, this setup is a little bit different than normal. It's a little bit more unconventional. I used a little bit more of my juice to get some shots of the sermon from Sunday and ran out of battery and left it. So I will be to my normal setup next time. But I think this is pretty much approaching episode 50. So just again, thank everybody for tuning in consistently. I've got people that come up to me at church and thank me for putting on these thoughts. And I just kind of got this idea during COVID, and I should have stayed with it. And uh, just I started thinking about doing this, years later. It's when I actually was out of work for a little while, ironically enough, during COVID, because I tore my ACL then and went back to work and all that. And then a couple years ago, I ran across our dear Jimmy Whited, ran across a message from him. And he was just simply asking about when it was coming out, when the next episode was coming. I was like, you know what? That is what I needed to do this whole time. And so the Lord really led me to try to do these consistently. There's times where I get sick, times where we have things that come up. I've missed a couple times, but thankfully trying to be as consistently as possible to give some light, and thank the Lord that we have the ability to do so. So thank you guys for that. This is going to be a really short one this time, but it's just a really concise thought that I had. And like I said, I'm trying to keep these shorter anyway. So just a little bit of a nugget to get you through the week and everything. But I always like to try to bring in some announcements and then get right to it. So Silk Women's Group will be this Saturday at 2 p.m. at the Fellowship Hall. The ladies really enjoy that, I believe. We're trying to work on getting a little bit of sound implemented into the Fellowship Hall. It's a little bit difficult where we don't have any actual equipment down there, but we're going to try to figure that out for the ladies. So if that's been a pain point for you, hopefully that'll go away so you'll be able to hear what's going on. Also, we've themed every single month, or tried to put it in the hands of the teenagers. So we're doing Awanas all year long, and we've given them a little bit of driver's seat to have the theme of every month, what they get in the fellowship hall, as far as like when we meet once at the end of the month all together, they get to choose what food we have. They get to choose what the lessons taught on. And the theme kind of coincides with the lesson a little bit, and kind of gives them some fun throughout that too. So if you see those posts, that's what that's about. So this month is safari themed. We've really been hammering love in Sunday school with the story of Hosea. And so the way that we've constructed ours is every Sunday school is strictly about a character. So we're focusing on one character per month. And then with Wednesday night, we're focusing on Awanas. So it separates it completely. It's not all Sunday school, which it kind of blended real blurry the last year or so. So this year we wanted to be more intentional in what we're doing with our teenagers. And so that gives them a little bit of, responsibility and ownership, and being able to be a part of that. So that's what that looks like. We're going to theme every single month something different to keep it fresh. And we are working on trying to do a little bit of a digital track system. I've been researching this one outlet that I've told a lot of people about, and I think we're going to try to do that in the next few weeks. And so, one of our things is trying to be not just more discoverable, but more established in the community, and really trying to reach out to those visitors and bringing them in. And this is a good way to, I believe, do that. And so be much in prayer for that. I think it's going to be a good thing. I think a lot of people have known or have an idea of New Hope, but a lot of people don't know what we truly do. And so there's a lot of assumptions. I talked to a lady that moved from out of state, literally 3 doors down from New Hope, and didn't even know it was there. So it's really more of a geographical thing, because it's so far off the road that if you don't happen to go by there, you wouldn't know where exactly it was. And so a lot of people have ideas. I've heard of New Hope, and I've listened to thankfully with technology, I've heard some stuff online, or I've heard that choir go here and sing. Johnny Neal and them did so much outreach with their singing. I mean, the sisters, Kim and Tammy, the singing that they've done and the outreach that they did with revivals and stuff like that. I believe that's why a lot of people know anything about New Hope. Not to completely pin it on one family, but I'm telling you, if you go places, they still remember Johnny leading the choir and the group that he sung with, and I mean all that they did in years past established us as we are. And so I don't want that to go to waste at all. And that's what really fuels me and motivates me to try to outreach, is because we had people for years that went all up and down these little hollers and alleys and different places. I mean, you're talking, you can ask Steve at church, places that they go to. And I mean, hour and a half away, sometimes even close 2 hours plus. I know some they've been to some places even out of state. So um, I think we can really put, I like to say, a dent in our community in a good way. I hope that's perceived as a good thing. And so that people know what New Hope stands for, who we are. We had a gentleman that visited us, and I told my dad, he said, I was looking for a church that preached King James. And I'm like, wow, you really got to the right place, you know? But I want people to not just happen to stumble across us, if that makes sense. Like, I want people to know and make a conscientious decision to come visit us. And I will say, with as much as going on right now, and as the times are with technology, all that stuff, one thing I can say is that people typically vet you out before coming to just blow open your doors. You know what I mean? Uh, so when people come into your congregation, a lot of times they've researched you. They've checked to see, okay, what do these people look like? Like, what do they preach? What do they teach? What do they offer? How does it fit me? You know, and so a lot of, instead of years past, it was great, you know, for people to just kind of happen to drive by and stop in. I love that. It's just, you know, people are there for uh, more acute purpose, to, you know, whether it's for their family, for themselves, for people that they know, you know. So just be much in prayer for that. We've been praying. I think that's, you kind of stumble upon different seasons in the church. I've realized that, you know, in the years that I've been, uh, I don't necessarily think it's the time of year as much as it is just the status or state that your church is in. And I feel like we're in kind of that bubble where we're really trying to build from the middle, you know, when it comes to our young adults and young families. And uh, I've said this before, you know, if you can look at your church and you can pick out 15 families, you talk about, and I mean, you know, between the ages of 20 and 40, if you could pick out 15 families, you are blessed. I mean, even less, you know, I could look at ours and say we're probably in the, you know, cusp of 10 or so different families. But when you can, when you can look and see that kind of number, and I don't want people to always think it's about numbers, but when the Bible talks about going out into the highways and the hedges and compelling people to come in, the 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 community runs off the local church. But I mean, everything runs through it. You know, everything is very emphatic when it comes to what the local church has power to do. You know, when it comes to where you live, the things that you experience, the schools, the programs that are around, the businesses, the establishments, all that is really, if you think about it, affected by the local church, because it's either what we're trying to accomplish or what we're lacking to accomplish, that you can see the state of where you're living. So um, I know that the more the better. And I mean that is because there are souls out there that are yearning for the gospel, and our duty is to try to bring as many people into heaven as possible. And so that's the way that I look at it is, well, if we're supposed to grow the family of God in a very deliberate way, then if you think about it, it truly does come down to numbers. Now, I'm not just wanting to have numbers for the sake of it, but I want to have people coming through New Hope to find help, to find hope, to find the true Word of God, to find genuine Christian people. And I feel like that's what we offer. And I don't want it to go without being experienced. That's the way that I think about it. And I also look at it this way is you can ask yourself this, what if I didn't have New Hope? Or what if New Hope wasn't a part of my life? How much different would it be? You know, when we were working with WCQR, we did something during Vision Week. Then we asked ourselves the question is, what if WCQR wasn't a part of the community? What if it wasn't here for, we're going on 30 years next year. We're close to 30. So basically 30 years, what if it wasn't here? How much different would our community and our area be? The Tri-Cities, even all the way out to, Marion, Virginia and Morristown, all that coverage. How much different would those hundreds or really tens of thousands, but even upwards of hundreds of thousands of people's lives be differently? And that's the thing that I ask myself with New Hope is where we are right now. We've been at New Hope now for, I want to say right at 14 years, going on 15 years. And so my last 15 years, how much differently would it be if I didn't know? So that's kind of the fuel that's behind that. But anyway, just want you guys to be much in prayer for that. And we'll have our revival coming up next month and all these things rolling out. So just follow us as close as you can. Really, if you were at church yesterday, you saw on the bulletins a would you rather. It was like a list. And I did a video on it, and I think it went really well. A lot of people really found it intriguing. And I thought about doing it in the front of the bulletin a few months back, and I didn't. I think it was near a holiday. So I chose to go with the holiday cover than that. And then I like to do this every now and then when it comes to interaction on the front of the bulletin and see what people's thoughts are, how they feel, what their likenesses are and different things like that. So this was one, it was like different stories. Like, would you rather see creation or Jesus walk on the water? Would you rather experience this? Would you rather be this person? I think one was like, would you rather live 969 years like Methuselah or be pregnant at 90 like Sarah? And my little niece was the only person I heard that wanted to be pregnant at 90, which was hilarious. But that got me thinking of like which way do you want it? Now, would you rather is a really cute way of seeing like, oh, well, which one would I experience? Would I rather go this way or that way? But what it started making me think of is like the whole spirit behind it is making a choice. And it's a really cute way, of course, of displaying that. But in my mind, I started thinking about like, we make choices every day, but sometimes in our minds, we get so caught up with luxury. I've taught on that before, but just we get so grown, so to speak. I know I'm speaking Southern here. We get so grown that we feel like we ain't got to make choices anymore. I can have it how I want it, right? The actual saying, so everybody says you can have your cake and eat it too. You shouldn't want your cake and eat it too. The actual saying is you can't have Kate and Edith too. Meaning like you can't have both women. You got to make a choice. It's the same way when it comes to the things of God. Like God is presenting you something to make a choice. Are you going to choose the way that I've put it in place for you or the way that you want it? You can have it your way, just like Burger King, right? And everything is tailored to have it exactly how we want it, right? I mean, let's lock it down with foods. When it comes to certain things, it doesn't matter how that comes. I want it a different way. You know, I always joke with Brittany and Holly in our church about when we go to Mexican. They're like, "Hey, I want the taquitos or I want the whatever, but instead of having beef, can I have chicken? And instead of the sauce on the tacos, can I have it on the side so I can dip it in the tacos? And instead of having all the stuff that comes, and it's like they are literally just tailoring it exactly to the way that they want it, which is how things are made. But I started thinking of like, man, that's kind of how we do God. Is like he's got his will for us and he presents it and we're like, yeah, that sounds great, but this part I'd probably want to do a little bit differently. How about instead of this, let's do this? And uh, I know you've got this set for next week, but let's push that back a couple weeks. That'll give me enough time to. And we try to critique what God's presented us to fit us instead of us trying to fit into what He's got. And I am the world's worst. So don't think that I'm just telling you because I'm telling myself. But really, this scripture, I think, speaks volumes. And I was trying to think of like all the things surrounding having it my way. Which way do I want it? Do I want it mine? Or do I want to align myself? This is the trick, okay? There's three different ways, really. Is my way, which doesn't align with God. God's way, which I reluctantly choose and still really want to do my own. But then there's a way where I submit to God and my likenesses become what His are. My ways become His. And so it's really what I truly want to do. Like it is honestly what I love, my passion. It all aligns together, but I've got to submit myself first for that to happen. Because if I don't, it'll be miserable. And that's where a lot of us get to is we become Jonahs. And we make fun of Jonah all the time. I've made jokes about him myself and the way that he does stuff. But that's how we are, is like, I'm going to do God's will, but I'm going to do it with a grit in my teeth. I'm going to do it with my fist clenched. I'm going to do it out of a unwillingness or unwilling heart. And it's like, it's not that God calls us to do what we don't want to do or what deliberately makes us feel uncomfortable just to get on our nerves. And sometimes we treat Him like that. And we were talking about in Sunday school about hurting God's feelings and like thinking from His perspective. How do you think this makes Him feel? And a lot of times I feel like God has a bunch of spoiled brats, just to be quite frank. He has to deal with a bunch of people that are unwilling to conform to His Son. And that's the golden nugget. The golden nugget is figuring out that if I align my life with Him completely, I won't have any issues. I will never have any issues if I stay humble and I consistently align my life with Christ and want to please Him. I'll never have a problem. Everything will go great. It's the flesh getting in the way and wanting to do my own thing. And, we've even pointed out with the story of Hosea and the children of Israel consistently wanting to do their own thing. And then they're in the cycle of trying to please God, trying to please man, trying to please themselves. And it's just, I think we get too lackadaisical and we're such beings of pattern and people that want everything the same way. We want the same lunch every day. We want to wake up at the same time. We don't want change. And we don't want change bad enough to where it ruins our life. We want such pattern and such, routine that it ruins us. And if you think about it, like that's really what causes us to age even more. I mean, myself, like I was talking about this the other day about getting to the point where you don't go to the gym 99% of your adulthood. And then when you try to go, that's what makes it so hard is you're trying to do something that is 99% out of your daily routine. But in your mind, it's not. in my mind, I'm like, geez, just the other day I was working out and doing 4-a-days with football. So I could just pick it up anytime. And you think you put yourself in this mind frame of I can just do it anytime, but you never do. And I'm saying I never do. But we have to honestly just get real with ourselves and ask ourselves, how do you want it? How do you really want your life to go? How do you want um, your adulthood to frame out? I talk to Braden all the time, my nephew, about you don't understand when you're 13, 14 years old and you've got the tools to be successful and you're getting provided with a way to steer yourself out of so much grief and anguish. But it's like, this is why, honestly, I truly believe that you have to go through the mud. You have to go through sucky situations, something to where you say, I don't ever want that to happen again. And I hate it. I hated that I had to go through the sucky jobs and the working night shifts, and I had to work in, freezers and fridges, negative 30 degrees, and killing myself, sweating to death. And in the moment, I never wanted to do it. I'm telling you. But to this day, I was actually speaking to a friend the other day that I used to work with. I still dream about those jobs. Like, it's not even a nightmare. It's just like, I think that I'm going to work there and I'm getting ready. And then right before I start, it's like I wake up. I'm like, oh my gosh. And it was so ingrained into me to do it. But that's not what I wanted. I was spinning my tires in the mud. I had everything figured out and everything crumbled in front of me. And I figured out along the way, the hard way. And that was best for me in the long run, I will say. Now, and when I look back on things, I feel like I caused myself a lot of time. And that's what we really want for our youth. And I think sometimes they just can't grasp it, is they don't understand the respect that you should have for time. And I don't mean just like the day to day. I mean like your time in general, and understanding that it is precious, it is fragile, and you have to respect it. And you don't when you're younger. You think you got all the time in the world. You think that the clock moves, 10 minutes per second. Like, it's crazy when you look back on it, just how quick it can blow by. I'm 32 years old. And in my mind, I don't even remember the last 10 years what happened. I'm like, what happened from 22 to 32? I couldn't tell you. Like, the adulthood absolutely blows by. And I want to make the most out of my time, but at the same time, not savor as much as possible, and that's what we want. But not to get off on such a tangent, but one thing I want to show in scriptures in Hebrews 11, if you're following with me, it talks about, this is the Hall of Fame chapter in the New Testament. And one of my favorite understandings of a character, and from start to finish, has to be Moses. I don't believe there is somebody that embodies the work that Moses does in the scriptures, and the patience he had, and the calmness, and the leadership. I mean, you could think about Moses, okay? Somebody that did it the right way. And I'm not saying he was perfect, right? We know his flaws. It's displayed in the scriptures. We understand that. But I'm talking about a man that matures and that gets it together and that carries himself in such an emphatic way, and was a leader and bold, and just like responsive to God's will, and showed miracles. It is unreal when you start dissecting the life of Moses. And surely he's going to be in Hebrews 11. But when you look at it, it says, by faith Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt, for he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. And I could go on, there's more, but there's so much here. But the one thing I wanted to look at was choosing. In verse 25, he made a choice early on. It says when he came to years, he was like, you know what? I'm making my choice now, and my choice is going to stand and stay for my lifetime. And it says to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. This is what I've also figured out, okay? Tell me if I'm wrong. The more you want things your way, the more you want to enjoy pleasure and enjoy things of the world. It doesn't have to be so even sinful or evil. It can just be yourself enjoying your long time and kicking. What you eventually get to is you by yourself. I believe the biggest idol and the biggest God you can create is yourself. And what I mean by that is cutting all ties to the world, to the outside, to society, to people, becoming your own outlet. You know, I don't have to research outside of myself. I don't have to get other ideas. My ideas are the best. I don't need any intellectual assistance. I'm good. I know better than everybody. I know, I mean, the list goes on, right? But when it says to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season, when it comes to sin in general, you'll eventually be by yourself. You can kick your wife out of the picture, your husband out of the picture, your kids. When you want to enjoy sin, it becomes so personal and so, selfish to the point where nobody can be involved. Nobody can pick into your life. You're just cutting everybody out. But if you look, it says, and ask yourself this question: would I rather be with God's people or be by myself? This is really the choosing, right? He looks and he says, I could have all that, but I'm going to be so alone. And that's what I want to ask you today. And if you get anything out of this, this is basically what I'm going to get to. I don't want to get too deep. Do you want to be surrounded by people and have to put forth effort and have to get out of your shell a little bit, have to be a little unselfish, have to deal with people's ways, have to conform a little bit, to do things you necessarily wouldn't want to do, to be a little bit unlike yourself? Would you rather do that and be with God's people than be by yourself and do it your way? Would you rather have the Burger King? Would you rather have it your way and be completely alone? Or would you rather give up some of that tight-knit clenching of your life and be with the people of God? This is a great question, because the way that the church is becoming is tailoring to what you want. And that's why churches are dwindling, is because people get the ideology of, well, I need it to be this way. I need it to be my way. I can't conform to the way that people are presenting something. And I've become my own interpreter of every single thing there is. I don't need to be taught. I don't need to be preached to. I don't need to be sung to. I don't need to be prayed for. I'll do it all on my own. And doing everything on your own will put you just like so, completely on your own. But I want to ask you, which is better? Is it better to be a bunch of individuals by ourselves and separated out, or is it better to be together? And if you know me, I love unity. I love us being together. But I also have to ask myself the willingness that, just like it says, there is affliction, there is friction, there are pain points, okay? When you get people that are trying to serve God and trying to put their life on the line for Him, and also trying to be inclusive, there's going to be some hard conversations. There's going to be some annoyances and some nuances and some times where you just ain't feeling it. I can't take them. I can't be around them today. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it. I can say at the end of the day, the Bible even says, if it be possible, live peaceably with all men. You know what that means? That there's a chance it might not be possible. Everybody ain't gonna get along, right? That's the thing. That is the trick, though. It's not about being everybody's best friend. And I love the people at New Hope, but everybody's just not best friends. That's okay, though. Because if we were all best friends, we'd all be exactly like each other. And that makes me nauseous. I don't want to be like anybody, much less hundreds of people the exact same. But we have to understand that we have differences. That's what makes it so great. But we have to figure out, how can I put myself aside a little bit and work with so and so, include so and so, go out of my way a little bit to be, to include different ideas. I will say, when we try to tackle things and we're, you know, the lead of certain things, I never want to look like I'm being a dictator. And I always tell people, if I am, tell me, call me out on it. If I'm being too overpowering or not inclusive, I've had to apologize myself for not including somebody's idea or walking over it, and honestly being unintentional with it. Just being like, I didn't even think I said that. I'm sorry. I really didn't mean it like that. And I don't think so. I just try to get to an end point and understand timing. But I also have to kick myself out of the way too. Maybe it's going to take longer than I thought. Maybe it will be different than what I think, or it happened a different way. And that's me getting myself out of the way. But the question is, what choice are you going to make? And it hurts. It hurts. Truly hurts me is that people just want to have their own way and will only let you in their life so deep. I'll let you this far, but I can't let you anymore. This is my thing. And I'm not saying about privacy or anything like that. That's not what I'm talking about. Because I have a line myself. This is my family. And this is, when it comes, especially during the holidays, that's our family that we're spending time with. And I understand that, but I'm saying, like, when it comes spiritually speaking alone, it's like people can only go out into the water so far, and they're just unwilling. It's like, I just can't submit my life to Christ like that. I can't give him everything. I just can't do it. And it's not that they deliberately come out and say it, but it's their actions that show, like, oh, well, I guess that's just as much as we can get of them, or as much as they're willing to give. But just imagine if you gave just a little more time, 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes, And I'm talking about time in general, but I mean, a little bit more of yourself. Trying to find out more about somebody. Maybe there's somebody that you haven't talked to, or a group of people that you haven't really tried to align with, and you just try to let me know more about them. Let me know more about this position at church. Maybe it will be something I'd like to do, or this program that's going on, or this meeting that they're having, or this video, or whatever it is. Let me just figure out if I will say this and I'll be done. When I was working night shift, there was a show that came on, and it was like the night, the George Lopez, and I cycled through them all because there's nothing else on TV at 4 or 5 a.m. And I would come home and I'd watch King of Queens or something. Whatever was on, just to get me to go to sleep, And there was this show called Yes Dear. I don't know how people feel about different shows or whatever, but I'm the type, especially at that time, I'm in my early 20s. I'm just trying to get something to where I can fall asleep. And I'll never forget, it changed the course of time for the scheduling of the shows. So it was on and nothing else was. And I used to hate it coming on. And I'm like, man, I have to have something on the TV to fall asleep. This was then. Now I don't sleep with a TV in the room or anything at all. But then I was like, I have to have something playing. And I made the decision, I'm going to figure out more about this show. I'm going to stay up. I hate it. I hated seeing it come on, but I'm gonna just try it. And it is so funny. The probably third or fourth night that I actually forced myself to watch it, it became one of my favorite shows, and I thought it was one of the funniest ones on TV at the time. Excuse me. And I'm like, if I would have just stayed in that mindset and stayed like, I can't stand this and I never want to watch this, I would have like ruined. And I become like, I watched that show for probably, I don't know how long it was on the scheduling or whatever, but I used to love watching it come on after that. But I was like, man, it was some episode about like him having an allergic reaction with shrimp or something, and I almost lost my mind. But you think about like all these things, and we become so calloused, and I'm not going to do this. I'm never going to go there. I'm never going to say this, or I'm never going to have this in my life, and it can ruin a lot of who we are. It can ruin so much if we're just not willing to be like, let me just try it. I think sometimes our curiosity bulbs blow out and they never get reattached. And we just don't want to genuinely know more about something, or we don't want to learn anymore. We don't want to like find something new out. I'm different though. I've never been like that. I always want to know something new every single day. I love change. I love volatility and things like all happening at one time. But I also get to the point where I'm like, I need to learn more. I need to figure things out more and go out on my limb more, get out of my bubble a little bit. And the things that I don't think I like, actually try to tackle into those areas. But I'm going to finish with this. What is your choice? Do you want to be more inclusive, more with the body of Christ, more with the things of God? Or do we want to just do our own thing? One thing I will say to finish is just be honest. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with people. Be honest with God. If it's what you truly want to do, just make your character about it and be like, this is just what I want. But pray about it. I'm telling you, if you're a true child of God, He will lead you in the right way. Maybe it's not exactly what you thought it would be as far as your inclusivity or being involved in something. And it takes God to show you, no, it's not what you think, it's this way. But just trust in Him, because the Holy Spirit's going to lead you into all understanding and all that you need. He will take care of that. I don't have to do that for you. He's going to be able to lead you into sanctification. He's going to be able to lead you into your will for your life and show you the way that you need to be shown. But it does come down to a choice that you do have to make. It's either going to be my way or God's way. I hope that helps you guys. Let's pray. Lord, thank you so much. Thank you for being with us and all you've done for us, and allowing us to have a choice at the end of the day is what makes us human beings. It is what gives us life, freedom. All these things is the idea of choice. Being able to make a decision. We make so many decisions every day. They just need to be good ones. You know, if we could take our day, if we could take our week, our month, our year, and go and dissect it and say, what decisions do I make on a daily basis? And how can I make the right ones and a good one? Man, we could really transcend our life. And I pray that we can all do that, Lord. Pray that this helps somebody. If there's somebody out there that is lost, pray that they can come to the saving knowledge of who you truly are, Lord, and allow you to be in their life and realize that you're the best thing that's ever happened to any of us. I pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.